You're listening to Raw with Marty Gallagher, JP Bryce, and Jim Steele, brought to you by Iron Company. If you enjoy the podcast, please give us a review on your favorite podcast player. We appreciate it. Okay, so today's guest had a historic college football career at the University of Pennsylvania, where he was strength trained by our very own Jimmy Steele. He became a three-time All-American and holds the record for most receiving yards in conference play in Ivy League history. He's a fifth-year NFL wide receiver and a Super Bowl 55 champion. Today, we welcome Kansas City Chief Justin Watson. Welcome, Justin.
JP, thank you, man. I'm so excited to be here with obviously Coach Steele. He's still Coach Steele to me, and Marty. Love spending time with you guys a couple of years ago, and man, just excited to chop it up with you guys on the podcast.
Yeah, man.
Well, we're glad you're here. We appreciate it.
You know, it's funny. Justin was three-time All-American, best college football player I ever been around. Didn't win Ivy League Player of the Year one time.
Yeah, yeah, not one.
We used to just laugh about it. We used to just laugh.
Jim, I was looking at his.
Wait a minute. I'm sure whoever beat him has had a big career in the NFL, right?
No, I think he's on Wall Street.
Yeah. But Jim, I was looking at his numbers. He's got crazy numbers from University of Pennsylvania there. I mean, he had what, Justin, what'd you have, like 286 receptions, 3,777 receiving yards, 34 touchdowns.
Yeah.
I can tell you my squat, bench, and clean from my senior year, but I couldn't tell you receptions, yards, touchdowns, any of that stuff.
That's right.
That's what's important. I used to just stand on the sidelines and I'd say, throw it to him. Just throw it up. Just throw it up. He'll catch it. Just throw it up.
Yeah, he'll do it. He'll get it done. Just send it to him.
Yeah.
Man. So you guys have known each other since Justin came in. He was a freshman, right?
Yeah, man. Justin came in. Let's see. Justin, just go over like how you got to Penn. It's not nothing crazy, but just you didn't have any scholarship offers until late. It was some MAC schools, right?
Yep. Yeah. So kind of my story. It's funny because I talk about my high school, and I was never really the guy at my high school. We had a kid who was a receiver, similar build to me, that was a year ahead of me. And so until I was a senior, he was kind of the guy. He had an offer to go to Pitt. He ended up going to University of Pittsburgh playing receiver. And so I didn't really kind of step into the spotlight until I was a senior. And at that point, a lot of scholarships happened. So I had, the Ivy Leagues. My best football offers were Buffalo, Toledo, Akron, not
right,
big powerhouse football schools. So I kind of thought in my head, well, there's no Ohio State's knocking. I'm probably not going to go to the NFL. So I thought I'm going to get a world-class education and play good football in the Ivy League. And, I remember even just going on my visits to Penn and falling in love with the weight room and the kickboxing room and everyone talking about it. But then I remember going to a game where they were playing Lafayette before I committed, and everyone was big. And I remember that's what stuck out to me was we had Mitch King, Ryan O'Malley, these two huge tight ends, a big receiver. And I was like, shoot, man, these guys are the real deal. This is real deal football. And so that's kind of how I ended up.
Jason, let me ask you, at the time, what were your, how tall, what did you weigh as a freshman?
So as a freshman, I came in pretty big. I think I was about the same height as I am now, 6'2", 6'3", and I was 210 as a freshman. And I kind of stayed at that weight a lot of my career, but I leaned down. I think I got up to 215, 216, but my body composition changed a lot and my strength profile increased a ton in my time in college.
What are you now?
Now I'm right around 210, 211. I kind of like playing there. I actually just got my body fat measured on a bod pod yesterday, and I was 4% on a bod pod. Yeah. So take that into account, but definitely leaner than I was in college.
Yeah, totally different.
That is diced.
Totally different athlete. Well, you're able to walk around at 4% comfortably. I mean, it's not like a strain.
No, yeah. I mean, like I said, I guess it's just because I don't really, diet wise, I don't really eat out ever. I don't drink ever. I just cook, and I enjoy marinating chicken and grilling it, and potatoes and rice and vegetables. And I didn't really intend to get this lean, but that's kind of where I'm at. I'm sure I'll add. It just seems like every time we start putting some pads on and hitting and stuff, I start clinging to a little bit more body fat. So I'm sure that number will come up. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at just after an off season of training.
Wow.
Well, you're probably pretty naturally lean anyway, right? I mean, you're a tall guy too, and
Yeah. I've always been kind of the type that if I don't eat consistently and train, and by eat consistently, I mean like eat good, clean, protein-filled meals, then I'll drop weight pretty quickly. So yeah, I'm not one of those guys. If I'm eating cheeseburgers and pizza, I'll probably end up losing weight.
Yeah. Well, I wish I had that problem.
Yeah, well, that's for now.
Right, Jim?
26-year-old.
Yeah. Oh, shoot. Justin, tell me the high school. So you had a high school strength coach, or you trained outside the high school some? He was really good, right? He really got you started.
Yeah, that's kind of where I first fell in love with the weight room. We had a kind of a partnership with a local hospital that did our training in-house. That was our team trainer. And so they were okay. But a lot of it, they were afraid of getting guys injured because they were affiliated with the local hospital program. That's where our insurance ran through. And so our head coach, knowing that, kind of said, hey, he found a trainer outside, a strength coach outside of the team, and said, hey, if you guys can afford to go to the strength coach, I think he's really good. And so his name's Anthony Paroli. I went to his shop in Pittsburgh, and I remember, he was just taking me through all, squat. We did single leg Bulgarian split squats with tempo. I mean, all these things I've never done before, glute ham machine, and I remember leaving, my legs are shaking. And he said, that's kind of always the sign. I got back into my mom's car. I was only 15 and my legs were shaking. And she said, do you think you want to come back? And I said, yeah. And that's, usually after that first time, he says he pushes guys really hard because he doesn't want guys that are going to come every once in a while. He's going to crush you the first time, see if you're going to commit to it and come back. And so, we couldn't really afford for me to go there. So I got a job. I was bagging groceries at our local Shop and Save, just our local grocery store, saving up money. And he was cutting me a deal, but then a lot of my money was going towards training at that time because I really believed in it and bought into it.
Wow.
And the crazy thing is he trained me my sophomore off season, my junior year, and my senior year in high school. And then when I was going off to Penn, he, had a great base for training and the Olympic stuff that I knew we were going to do, and the powerlifting type stuff we were going to do in college. And he said, hey, I'm leaving the private facility. I'm going to get into the coaching world. And he went as an intern to Ohio State, and crazy world that he ended up with Buddy Morris, the head strength coach down in Arizona, with Bruce Arians. And when Bruce Arians got hired here to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, my second year in the NFL, he wanted Buddy Morris, but Buddy Morris was sticking true to the Cardinals. So he hired what he thought was the next best thing. And so Anthony Paroli, the same guy that coached me in high school, ended up becoming my strength coach in the NFL the last 3 years.
That's great.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So Justin, you come into Penn as a freshman. You roll into the weight room the first time. You meet Jim Steele. Guy's all tatted up.
Yeah.
He's talking about Bulgarian lifting tapes and, kind of, he's all in, right?
Oh, yeah.
What do you think of this guy? What's your first impression?
Wait a minute. Marty's got something. What did Marty?
Excuse me. Don't they have a lot of that type at Penn?
Just me and the girls. Just me and the girls. Me and my assistants. Just me and my assistants. Yeah.
Well, I'm pretty sure that one of my first days in the weight room, I remember my first impression of Coach Steele is like, he wasn't putting on this dog and pony show. He wasn't trying to impress you with anything that was fake. And just, and I think that's something that everyone who's around Jim, he's never going to BS you. If he says something, good to you, you can take it as truth, because he's not going to blow smoke. And so I think really one of our first days, we just had as a freshman, you don't do the 3 lift max, but you come in, you get a bench max. And I just remember, just for whatever reason, just Coach Steele standing over you, watching you. You just want to do more weight. We always said, shoot, my max might be 290, but with Coach Steele watching, I can probably do 305. And so I remember as a freshman, I came in first day, and on the bench press, I did 300 was my it was the most I've ever done at that point, and I hit the lift. And the funny thing is, I was really happy with the lift, but knowing Coach Steele as I know him now, he'd probably say to me, what the hell are those 2.5s doing on the end of
Yeah, he'd say, well, son, you're about 100 pounds shy of where you should be.
Yeah.
Marty, I learned that from Kirk. No 2.5s, man.
Yeah. So I learned that on my first day was no
I tell you, Justin, you might be being a little hard on Jim, because I'm putting myself in Steele's shoes looking at you. And for a 6'2" skinny guy, a receiver, I'm happy with a 300 pound.
Yeah.
Compared to the other guys, you know what I mean? I'm sure they're like a, whatever, 205, 225, right? But, so that at your height and your leanness, I'm sure your arms, when you bench press, it must be like taking an elevator.
Yeah, for a true freshman, that's real good. He actually obviously had a background in it. And so I coached Justin his freshman year, and then it's like a year and a half there where I didn't have him. I moved to lacrosse and then came back. And by this time he was beating teams single-handedly, like Villanova. And after, then we hit up a good relationship, because here, I'll tell you a good story about Justin. So when I first took the team back over, I knew I had to sort of set like I sort of had to be not an asshole, but I had to say something once in a while that wasn't always popular, and I had to sort of freak out just to get everybody the kids who hadn't had attention. Yeah, so
to pay damn attention.
Yeah, we're a day after a game, and it's on a Sunday, and everybody's sore. We squat on Sunday, man. You play your ass off, and then we're gonna squat on Sunday, because what am I gonna do? Squat you on Thursday, Wednesday, whatever. So I'm gonna knock that out right on Sunday, then let you recover. And there was one rack of kids that it was like you had to do like 75-80% of your 1 rep max, and one rack had everybody was using 185. And we had some strong kids on that team, man. So I said, oh, let me ask y'all a question, man. So everybody on this rack has the same max. Well, coach, our legs are tired, and I just lost my head just spun around like the Exorcist, baby. And I said, tired. So I said, all right, turn the music off. And so I said, everybody start effing jumping. So we started doing jump squats. So, we had some big ass kids, like 330. We had some kids that were way up there. You ask a 330 pound guy to jump squat for more than like 30 seconds. That's with their hands on your hips. No, not stopping. If you stopped, I would make you go longer. So we're in the minute. I mean, these guys are dying. And now Justin had just, caught 200 yards of balls and, 5 touchdowns or whatever the day before. He was more sore than anybody on the whole team. So I get done with the squats, and I said, do the program. Don't be soft. I probably said a couple other things. And then it got real quiet, and Justin never said a word. Justin says, with 120 guys in there, you guys think you're the only people in here that are sore? Get to work. Dude, yeah, the whole freaking place started squatting. I mean, it was like, like pistons up and down. Everybody started doing it. But it just goes to show you, how everybody knew that if he was saying something, it meant something, because he never said anything, and he worked harder than anybody there. So that was, that really helped me out. And then honestly, every other time in the weight room, I would say like 2 words to him: good job, or move your feet out 3 inches, or, push through the middle of your foot. And then I just keep walking, because I didn't need to focus on him, man. He was doing everything I said.
He didn't need you.
No, he didn't need me. Well,
The
Well,
others did.
Yeah.
he had
to a
set the
limited
base at that
to a
point.
limited degree. If you got 120 guys,
Yes.
you go to those who in need, right? Also, I think that one thing that both you guys are hitting on is this idea that, and I heard this actually, I picked it up from an Olympic lifter. I can't think who it is. This phrase, "How you feel is a lie."
Yes. John Bros.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think really the base for that in our relationship got set in that summer that I was going into my senior year.
Yeah.
And we were training, and I remember, and I don't know if you did this on purpose or if we just had a different level of what was hard and what wasn't. But I remember the first day we were all a little nervous. We remember Coach Steele from our freshman year. We're seniors now, and so like, man, I remember these workouts being pretty hard. I don't know how it's going to be. You hear stories. It's kind of got this mythical, legend around them. And we're getting, for our first day in the summer, we're starting workouts in person, and we're not quite sure exactly how it's going to go. And so he calls us all in, and real calmly and nicely, Coach Steele says, "Hey guys, listen, I don't want to kill you today. This is just going to be light. This is just going to be, we're just going to get it going. This is going to be our first day of the summer." And so we're all like, big, breath of relief, exhale. And all of a sudden we're running sprints, full sprint workout. Then we get up on the stairs. We're running stadiums, 10, 12, 14 stadiums. And our legs are shaking like crazy. And we're going, okay, now we're going down. We got squat and clean today. It's a Monday. And we're like, what is it? We're like, there's no way I can't even get under a squat bar. But then, as you said, your feelings are a lie. And we get under the squat bar, and somehow, even though we don't know how we thought we could ever even get out of a chair, we're squatting 75, 80%, whatever the percentage was that day. And I remember a couple of us got up campus after that, and we were like, shoot, man, this is hard, and it's not getting any easier. But man, if we survive the summer, if we can get through the summer, then we're going to be monsters out there on that field this year.
I have a question. Did he make you read the Bataan Death March book?
No, I gave him that Jocko book. Yeah.
Yeah, he gave us all the Jocko Discipline Equals Freedom field manual.
Yeah. No, not the Bataan one, but if he needed it, Marty, in emergency, I would keep that like in case.
Oh yeah,
of
you bring it
emergency,
in your
break
gym bag.
glass.
Yeah, break glass.
In case of fire, yeah, absolutely.
Jim.
Well, also, what kind of seasons were you guys? Were you winners or in the middle or losers? I mean, what was that vibe like? I mean, it's a different attitude if you're, whatever. How many games you guys play? 10?
10, yep.
Yeah.
10 games. So yeah, if you're 4-6, you have a different attitude than if you're 7-3.
Yeah, that's so my freshman year we were 2-8, and just bad culture, man. We had the issue is we had some seniors that had already won their rings, and they kind of just got complacent. They always tried to take.
I don't think there's any real doubt about that. 2-8.
Yeah. And so it man, like it stung as a freshman coming in. I was used to winning. We won a state championship when I was in high school. I was coming up 16-0.
What level were you guys in high school?
We were smaller. We were AA out of 4A in the state of
2A. Yeah. Okay. 2A Pennsylvania. That's tough ball, baby.
Yeah, but I was always used to winning. We were always had one loss or two losses, and so coming in 2-8, it sucked. And I think a lot of us felt that as freshmen. Then we won 2 championships, and then, like I said, Coach Steele just kind of took this winner's mentality to a whole nother level. We won 2 championships, but the unfortunate part about the Ivy League is there's no conference championship game. So if 2 teams end the year with the same record, then you split. You end in a 2-way. You have 2-way champions.
Right.
And so we were kind of sick of that. And then we met Coach Steele right around the same time, and so he just put this dog mentality in us that we wanted to just dominate everybody that was in front of us. We wanted to go 10-0. We wanted to be undisputed champions. And my senior year, unfortunately, we didn't win it all. And I look back on the year, man, it's a true testament to you can do all the right things and still just fall short. We had a false start penalty that cost us our first conference game, and then just a blown lead and another
bad
one.
luck.
So just you see things that kind of those first 2 years, the breaks that went our way just didn't go our way that third year. But man, I don't know if I've ever been more happy to be part of a team than that last year.
Yeah,
Because
you're right,
how
man.
hard these guys work.
We had some Marty, and we had some leaders on that team you would love, man. Bokum, there's a tight end kid, super strong, man, super strong kid.
Right.
Really good leader, would slap kids
And
on
brought
the
it
ass.
and brought it on the field.
Yeah, and we had an offensive line that would, it. So there's a fine line between being an ass and getting on somebody and them accepting your criticism. And we had guys that would get on other guys, and it wouldn't turn out into a brawl. It would just be like, okay, I respect what that guy said. I got to do better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's unusual. And we've all been in magic situations, and the leadership on that team was pretty magical. It was good, man. It was good.
Jim, do you go to these football games, or did you go to these football games to watch these guys play and assess their performance and look for weaknesses that you could address in the weight room?
Yeah, if somebody was getting their ass beat, if our offensive line was getting their ass kicked, yeah. Unfortunately, in the Ivy League, there are teams that get around some of the rules, and they have their athletes on campus year round, and that means all the summer, just like all the D1 schools. And we followed all the rules, so we only had them really like August 1st. So we were a little bit behind. So I was always like, man, I got to get these guys. You wanted everybody to do their off-season program, but I wanted them to leave when they were going home for summer so freaking strong that even if there was a little bit of loss, we'd still be strong when they got back.
Now, did you find yourself staying in touch with these guys, or
Oh yeah,
do
man.
they just?
Oh yeah. So in college, they don't get a day off. They get emails. They get everything. And then we had some guys who stayed on campus, and that really helped, because I think that year, Justin, that was sort of the nucleus that stayed around at least most of the year. But yeah, JP. So I would, I never really thought we got our asses kicked like a strength wise.
No,
I would see stuff in games like conditioning wise, and that I would make notes on, and I'd say, okay. But see, the problem is it's just a fine line on everything. It's just like picking for a powerlifting meet. You can't do this too much and you can't do this too little, or you're not going to get it just right. So, we would just make little changes as far as the conditioning, or I'd meet with the coaches.
Yeah, or if you see, if your left offensive tackle is getting consistently beat, with somebody going around his outside, it's okay, we got to address that. He needs quicker feet or more cardio or something, right?
Yeah, I get coaches that come to me and go, "This guy's getting his ass up."
Right. What do we? Give us something to straighten him out.
They'd always say,
overpowered. He's being overpowered.
They'd say he's too fat. Run the shit out of him. And I go, "Yeah, okay, coach." And then I would never run him one step. We would box.
Right. Yeah. Beautiful. Exactly.
If I'm 315 pounds, I'm going to run during the season and then stand on my feet for 3 hours in the afternoon. Yeah. So anyway, that's a long answer to a short question.
No, that's great.
When Justin came in as a freshman, did he have any underlying weaknesses that you saw that you really had to work with him to bring up?
No. What he did was he got hurt halfway through, bad though.
Yeah.
Right? Shoulder.
Yeah. So what I will say is that I think I did have a little, my clean and especially my squat weren't at the level that my bench was. I had an elite bench level, and I wasn't as good at the clean and squat. I just wasn't. And
you're not built for them.
Well, yeah, but as I think a lot of young athletes, I was the same as a lot of freshmen. I wanted to, I was really good at bench, so I always wanted to bench. I wanted to show up in that weight room and impress always, and so it made me shy away from working on what I really needed to work on. And as Jim said, I don't even know. So I never missed the game in college, and I don't know how I played in this one, but
his arm was hanging off his body, man.
Yeah. The Wednesday of the game, I dislocate my shoulder. It just dislocates right out the back, posterior labrum tear. I go down. I'm in a sling all week. until Saturday morning.
Yeah.
They asked me, okay, you know, here's your strength test to see if you can play. I do 10 push-ups, and I get through the 10 push-ups, and they're like, well, it's up to you. You can play if you want. Well, if you ask me if it's up to me,
that's
shoot,
right.
I'm playing, man. So
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So I played. My arm was coming out every time it swung, so I was grabbing onto the collar of my shoulder pad so that it would stay in place until I was open on the route, and then I'd show my hands and I'd catch it. And
How many catches? How many catches did you make?
I only had 2 catches that game, and we lost. Like I said, we lost a lot of games my freshman year, but I had 2 catches.
With one arm.
Yeah, and then so I trained kind of the rest of that year through that shoulder injury. But man, it was such a blessing in disguise, because that off season I got shoulder surgery, and you can't train your right arm hard for a few months after that. So I wasn't coming in there getting days off. So we trained legs like 4 days a week, you know, almost every day.
Right.
I had something.
Right.
Man, I came back from that year so much faster, so much stronger, just you know, in and out of breaks so much better. And then
what you have to do
pretty good after that. So I looked at that year as
what were you doing? What were you concentrating on? What exercises?
Yeah, what exercise were we doing?
So we a lot of safety bar squat.
Yeah.
And then even kind of on my like lighter lower body days, I would do, you know, leg press, just a ton of reps. You know, we have a lot of Bulgarian split squats, a ton of hamstring work, glute ham raises, all that stuff. Anything that we could work my legs without putting a ton of load on my shoulder.
When you started back up on upper body, would you start easing into for that?
I think you know, you kind of it's always an interesting transition where you go from working with the PT to now you're working back with the strength staff. I think we started with you know, just some dumbbell pressing, and kind of stayed away from the direct overhead stuff at first, but then kind of I think Coach Steele may have just been letting my confidence build, and as you know, this pressing with dumbbells felt good, then we went back to the bar, then kind of some overhead stuff, and then by the start of the next season, you know, I was normal overhead pressing, benching, and kind of, you know, just back to all my normal strength stuff upper body wise.
And when an injury occurs like that to a player like yourself, I mean, Jim, were you the main guy that directed the rehab on that, or do you guys?
So what happens is he goes from surgeon to PT. PT releases him to the training staff. Training staff releases him to me with recommendations, limitations, and all that stuff. I never, you know, the good thing about our training staff was they were pretty dedicated, and they sort of got it. So it wasn't like I was like, that's stupid, like I am with everything else. So you can work into it slowly, but you know, nothing wrong with his legs, nothing wrong. You know, this stuff, it's trainable. Like Marty always says, train it. Train what's trainable. And it's like, you know, it's funny because if everybody would just say that and say, you know what, I got an injury, I'm not allowed to train my strengths. I have to train my weaknesses. You know, think how much better you would be as an athlete, or, you know, as a lifter too. Always train your weaknesses.
Also, Perillo has this cool theorem that he says when a body part gets injured, usually a favored body part, all the nutrients that had gone to that body part are now available to the weak body parts, that now you're going to give the same specialized training that you used to for your favorite lifts.
Right.
I love that.
I don't remember your bench going down when you rehabbed. Your bench went right back up, as far as I remember.
Yeah. Well, so what was, you know, I remember we were training I had surgery on my right shoulder, and we were still training my left arm, and you know, we would do single arm presses.
Right. Nothing wrong with that arm.
Right. Yeah, and that's what I remember Coach Steele. Well, you don't want to, you know, do you want? When I first kind of looked at him crazy, like I'm going to train one arm. And,
that's right.
Well, do you want 2 small and weak arms? And I was like, well, no. Well, when you put it that way.
Yeah, that's right.
But then, yeah, you're right. Like I said, I don't think your body will let you get too far out of proportion like that. And so, as you said, I'm lifting everything else. I had surgery. Got cut on my right shoulder, and I'm training everything else. So naturally, there's a lot of, like you said, nutrients and things that are going to my right arm, trying to help it keep up. So then when I got back into it, it wasn't long. It wasn't long at all when my bench was right back.
Came back better and stronger.
Yep.
Justin, give us some numbers. I remember your bench was like 345 when you left.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
good.
350, I think, was my best bench.
350.
Nice.
Sorry, dude. I know that 350 was special. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have forgotten that.
Yeah, so 350 on the bench. Squat. I remember Coach P coming down. He should have never been there on the Iron Quaker days. Like
That's the head football.
Yeah. They were always so worried that somebody or myself was going to get hurt.
Yeah.
And so I remember I crushed 445
There you go.
spring, and he was like, "Okay, that's it. You're done." I was like, "What do you mean I'm done? I've been training all spring for this day."
I know.
And he's like, "That's strong enough. You're stronger than the rest of our receivers." And so then, how it is. Like when somebody starts shutting you down, you're going to get hurt, saying all this shit right before you're about to go to a max.
Right.
So then we ended up just kicking it at 445.
What do you think? What do you think you would have got?
I was looking for 465 is what I
that's
wanted.
what I was just gonna say that. I was just gonna say that.
That's what I wanted that day was 465. So that's what the 445 was like. I knew I was gonna get that. I remember when he stopped me, I was like, dude, that's like, 20 pounds over my old max. Like that's nothing compared to what we had been doing all spring and the number I'd been training off of. But he didn't get that. He didn't get that.
And it wasn't just him as a head coach. Every head coach I've ever had has said they're strong enough. And I used to look at Rob Wagner. We'd look at each other like, what? How do people know that? What is strong enough? What is strong enough? But it's just a fear of them getting hurt. I told you that story about JJ Watt. My buddy was his strength coach, and he said, "Coach, I want to front squat 500." He said, "Wait till after the season, because if you get hurt, I lose my job."
Yeah, and he's right.
This constant fear,
and he's absolutely right. Now listen, but Jimmy, in the interest of time, I would love to shift gears and talk about a little bit of the NFL, because I would love to hear from Jason. How big of Justin? How big? Yeah, I'm thinking of my buddy Jason. But Justin, how big of a shock was it?
So I would say, so the initial, like, it isn't the first day that it shocks you. I remember coming off the field the first day. First week, really, I played well. I was as fast and as big as everybody. But what got me was
that's good. That's good.
I never got tired at Penn. I remember we'd practice all day, and I would never really break. I'd break a sweat, but I'd never be like dog tired.
Right.
I was in great shape, and I was exhausted, man. I was exhausted every day after practice. And I remember getting to like the end of the first month, and I said something to one of our, older guys, one of the vets, like, dude, I don't know what it is. I'm just always like, I'm gassed at the end of every practice. And we're in like helmets and t-shirts every day, where we were hitting in full pads in college. And he's like, dude, he pretty much just said, it's a different level. Every day you go on that field, you have to be your absolute best, mentally, physically. You got to put everything you have into it, or you're just going to get totally exposed. And in college, I pushed myself as far as I could, but it's like that race where Secretariat's so far out in front of everybody else. You could only, until there's somebody biting right at your heel every day, you will never reach that new level of performance. And so that was the first thing that stuck out to me was, man, you had to bring it every single day 100%, or you're going to get totally exposed. And just this new level of conditioning and performance that you learn to reach every day through that. And I'm sure that's the same with you guys.
What was the difference in the training? Justin, what was the difference in the body blows?
Honestly, the funny thing was, I thought it was worse in college, the hitting, because I think in college, and I think college football is getting away from this with just like some, because it's becoming more like the NFL with some of these NIL deals and how easy it is for guys to leave and transfer.
Yeah.
But man, by the end of 4 years, you hate whoever's in your conference. Like there was a dislike and a disdain for everybody in your conference. And in college, I felt like people were trying to hit you to hurt you. They're trying to like send a message. Where in the NFL, everyone's playing, but everyone's also kind of a professional, and they don't want to like, as hard as they hit you, they're going to kind of get hit back. And so every once in a while you run into a guy, like you think of the Ray Lewis's, we had a safety, Jordan Whitehead, like some of these guys are just downhill players and still play that way. But a lot of guys are just playing to get the job done and don't seem like they're hitting you in the same ferociousness as college.
Wow, that's interesting insight.
Isn't that interesting? That is fascinating. And
just
Marty,
go ahead.
Just
Jimmy.
goes to show you the difference between a Jack Lambert way of playing versus today. And the funny thing is, a lot of these guys end up on the same teams eventually. Like Justin, if he played against the Chiefs, when he's at Tampa Bay, next year they're your teammates.
It's more corporate. I mean, like back in the elder days, you'd have like the Hogs, the Steel Curtain, and
those guys were there for 10 years.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? And a team developed an identity that all went out the window with free agency.
Yeah,
which actually started with Wilbur Marshall of the Redskins. He was the first guy to bust loose, and that was the end of the team sticking together for a decade.
Justin, tell. I remember you telling me that on your rookie year, every Wednesday, you basically had to play another game to prove that you were good enough to stay on a team.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So that's, it's just funny, that's one of the things now, I just use this as an example. In college, a huge goal of mine was to make it to the NFL. I set this big, massive goal. And I reached that goal. It's something I trained for every day for 4 years and even longer than that. But I made it an intentional goal. And I finally reached that mountaintop. Well, you kind of want to I wanted to exhale, enjoy it. Well, 2 weeks later, I'm in Tampa Bay playing against the best football players I've ever played against.
Right.
And realized that there was 53 guys that were going to make the team. And there was 90 that were on the team currently. So half the guys were going to get cut. So right into it. Well, then, now I'm thinking, okay, just get to, the regular season, make the active roster. Then you can kind of exhale and enjoy. Well, shoot, man, I get to, September 1st, I make the active roster. We start our first game. The first Tuesday, I'm in the building. That's our off days, our Tuesdays. I come in the building to get an extra lift in. I look outside and there's 15 guys working out on the field, trying out. And so I asked, what are those guys? Oh, they're tryout guys. We might sign some of those guys. And then sure enough, we cut a linebacker and we signed a linebacker that was trying out that morning. And then so, a couple Tuesdays after that, we're working out 3 receivers. And I'm like, hey, we already got 5 receivers. Nobody's hurt. Why are we working out receivers?
Yeah. And
man, it was just a reminder that, like I said, it's due every day in the NFL. They will cut you at any point, at any time, unless you're one of the top 5% of guys that got these big, huge contracts.
Right.
You got to play every day like it's Sunday. And so that's what I said.
How long do you have to go to get a pension?
3 years.
3 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. That's cool.
You got to make it through the gauntlet.
Justin, isn't that
it's like gladiators? It's like gladiators.
You earn it.
Yeah.
You earn it, man. That's
Justin,
why it kills me when you got these announcers who never played a down in their lives, commenting on, oh, that guy's lazy, or that guy's this, or he doesn't have the work ethic. Guess what, man? He wouldn't be here. They're superhumans. Listen, Justin jumped 40 inches.
Yeah.
He jumped 40 inches and ran a 4.3 for the NFL scouts at his combine. It's a whole different deal, man. Superhumans.
And in the NFL, he's just another dude.
Yeah, I mean,
that's true.
Justin, isn't the average career length in the NFL like just over 3 years?
Yeah, it's right around that mark. Something around 3.1 or
most
something.
guys just get a cup of coffee. That's it.
So I mean, is that mainly due to your physical shape and health, or it sounds like some guys can get burned out too with all this pressure on them day in and day out. It's a lot of pressure to keep your job.
Yeah. So it's definitely, there's a lot that goes into it, man. I think, health is and longevity and staying injury free is probably the most important thing. And so I think that's one of the reasons why I stayed. It's I think there's two reasons, like, with staying power. One, you gotta stay healthy, and so some people will say that's luck. We all know in this circle here that you can make a lot of your own luck by training the right way, by marking weaknesses and making a point to strengthen those weaknesses, just tissue work, hydration, diet, all those things. And then just willingness to do anything, because if you're not willing to run down there on kickoff and knock your head against, they're going to find somebody who is. There's a million guys that would love and do exactly what you're doing. And so that's what, for me, man, I don't think I've ever said no coach in my whole life.
Can you imagine?
Yeah. So that's, whatever they asked me to do, there was even when we were in the playoff run, I knew the offense so well that but we had a safety that was two safeties that were banged up. And so they started saying, hey, would you mind, staying afterwards and learning the defense and, coming out early and doing some safety drills just in case two safeties get injured. And in the NFC Championship, you got to go in and play safety. And so what was I going to say? No, at that point, we're playing for a Super Bowl, and I want to, every time I can be on the field, I want to be on the field. So, it's just
that's flattering. That's great.
Yeah.
They really thought highly of you.
Yeah. So Justin was starting, and he ended up starting. Then he got hurt, man. I mean, that's what people don't realize. Everybody's like, "When's he going to start?" When they ask me, I'm like, "Man, he was starting."
I know. I kept looking for him. I go, "Where's that 17 at?"
Yeah. So that's what I said about the staying power and injury. So for me, like Jim said, I started a few games the Super Bowl year, early in the season. And then in the second quarter, I caught a pass and landed on it kind of funny on one of my lower ribs, and kind of just got the wind knocked out of me. Went back in the game, the next play, and we scored a touchdown, and I went and screamed, and all of a sudden I started coughing. I'm coughing, spit, bunch of blood comes up.
Oh boy.
So I get up to the sideline, and I'm like, man, I don't want to, like Jim said, I'm starting finally. I probably just bit my tongue or the side of my cheek or something. So I told one guy, one of our receivers that wasn't playing, Chris Godwin, I was like, Chris, if something happens, I just want to let you know that I got hit, I got the wind knocked out of me, and now I'm spitting up blood. If something happens, just you're like my lifeline. And so sure enough, we come to the fourth quarter, and I'm playing, and I go in there and I smack somebody, and I get hit kind of right in my chest, his shoulder pad on my chest plate. And man, it just felt like a faucet turned on inside my chest, and I couldn't breathe. And then I trying to breathe, and finally I coughed. And I'm like, before I was spitting up blood, now there is a ton of blood coming up. So I run off the field, take my helmet off. I'm pointing at my mouth. Everyone on the sideline looks like they're seeing a ghost, and there was just blood pouring down my mouth, and I couldn't talk. And so I'm sitting on the sideline. They're what's wrong? And I can't speak. There's no air coming in or out.
Oh boy.
And I hear somebody say, I hear two things. I hear one person say, "Oh, I think his allergies were bothering him earlier today." As blood is pouring out of my mouth, I hear one of our doctors say his allergies were bothering him. And then another guy says, "Oh, he just knocked his tooth out." And in that moment, I was like, I'm going to die. I'm going to die on the football field because they're not going to figure this out.
Right.
And right then, I kind of got just enough air to say that kid's name. I just said, Chris, get Chris. And they went over and got him. And he told him I was spitting up blood after I got hit. And they said, do you feel like you need to cough blood up? And so I did. And I started coughing a ton of blood up. Took me to the hospital. I bruised and punctured my lung. So it was filling up with a ton of blood. But like Jim said, so I'm sitting in the hospital. I don't leave until I find a doctor that gives me a reasonable time range for return. And they give me to a pulmonary specialist, and she's like, hey, this, we see this in car accidents. She said, I think honestly, if your x-ray looks good in like 6 days, you could play next Sunday. And I said, well, we play on Thursday night. And
Play
she was
Thursday,
like,
okay.
Thursday's probably a little bit too soon, Sunday to Thursday. So I missed one game, one of the only games I missed in my career. And just, they let a rookie come in and play. And then when I came back, they just were like, hey, we're going to keep rolling with him just because he played last week. He was the rookie that they drafted. And so then I was kind of just playing the waiting game after that until I got this new contract with the Chiefs. So it's crazy, man, how it can just kind of change in an instant. You don't do anything wrong, but things like that happen.
God dang. No wonder, Marty, no wonder those special ops guys like Justin and he's that damn tough, man. So we took, I came to Marty and I said, hey, man, let's get the kid Justin down here with the special tier 1 guys. And he's, Marty's like, all right, well, so it's sort of like being in a mafia. I vouched for him.
Yeah.
So I was like, with Marty, I vouched for Justin. So I was like, okay, he's going to be good. He'll be fine, man. He'll be fine. But I wanted him to get around those guys. And I knew he would never embarrass me. And so
he made a good.
Also, I've got to say this, they're of a very similar ilk.
Exactly.
Yes.
So,
he was a great demo guy too for you.
You were there, JP. Yeah.
Yep.
And best thing you did, son, you didn't say a word for hours, man. I don't think you uttered a word. And they were, because those guys are probably thinking, okay, this is a pro football player or whatever. He's probably going to be cocky or whatever. And I'd have him demonstrate. And then he slowly ingratiated himself with them. And then eventually you trained with them.
Yeah, man, I'll never forget that week and just those stories, but then training with those guys, man. I remember we ended with just we had a 45-pound plate on our back after an upper body workout and just doing as many push-ups as you can. And I was great at this in college. I mean, there was nobody that was touching me. And so I was like, oh, dude, I'm gonna impress these guys. I'm gonna probably be the top 1 or 2. Yeah. And I knock out like, maybe 8 or 9 push-ups and really grind it out, everything I have. And I was like the first one to go. And then all of a sudden these guys are knocking out like 16, 17, and they're going. I mean, what was so impressive was you would see a rep and you would think there is no way. I mean, he gave everything he had. There's no way he's getting one more. And they get like 8 or 9 more push-ups after reaching that level of tired and fatigue. So that changed things for me, seeing people like that. When I went back and trained, like there's a whole nother level to this that I can reach.
Justin, do you remember they wanted to play?
Let me tell one quick story. I don't know if he was there when this happened. This is pretty indicative of these kind of guys. So we were doing power cleans, and Jim, the 1-arm power cleaner.
Oh, yeah, that was with the other team. Yeah, he had a fused elbow.
Oh.
And he cleaned 250 with 1 arm.
No 2.5-pound plates, Jim.
255. Anyway, he could pick it up like up to the deadlift position, but he couldn't rotate his elbow underneath the racket. So he would deadlift it up real, get that initial pull and then flip it up with 1 arm.
Yeah.
And he was getting pissed off because he missed like 265.
And he weighed 185.
And if you said to him, dude, you got 1 arm, that would make him go crazy. He would get all pissed. So I didn't say that. I was just like, all right, man, you're doing a good job. Good job. That's not good. I missed it 3 times.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, dude.
Justin, do you remember those guys came to you and they wanted to play some touch football?
Yeah, I remember that.
I
remember you were like debating it. You're like, oh damn, I really want to do this, but I don't know if I should. I might get
they probably wanted to do it against another squadron and say, hey, we got this new guy.
Come with us.
Yeah.
So I think one of you guys saved me because, like I said, around certain people, I just can't say no. And they're another one. I'm not going to say no to them. So I think one of you guys.
And you told me that when you were down there and it'd be 105 degrees on the field and you're in full pads and you're running patterns, what you learned from the one guy.
It's just hot.
It's just hot. It's just cold. It's just hot. That's it. You just take stuff that they say. Here, I'll tell you a real quick story. This is great. So I spent some time with one of the guys a few months ago, And I took my son, my 15-year-old, and he's a real pain in the ass, and he's a great kid, but he's a pain in the ass. He's 15. So I'm always trying to get him to be more respectful to his mother and stuff like that. And so we're driving back from being with this team guy for a couple of days, and he goes, you know, Dad, I think I'm going to be nicer to Mom now. I'm like, what's that? And he's like, well, being around, you know, the guy, I can just see that he just changed my life, Dad. He just changed my life. And I'm like, I've been, you know, it's just different when you get around those guys. But I've been saying the same stuff to him for how long. But no, when and it's more like the way they act, the way they.
Jim, I know what he's talking about. And Justin, I mean, how many times did you have to pinch yourself when you were there and go, do you realize where you're at right now and who you're with?
Yeah, Marty Gallagher.
Right.
Exactly.
Brad Gillingham.
Yeah.
But the things that we got to do and the guys that we got to meet, I mean, it's right up there with one of the top things I've ever done. I mean, it's Justin and I have both been there once. And, you know, it was such a great opportunity. I think about it all the time. And we're still in touch with some of these guys. And it's just such a pleasure to know some of these guys.
We're having Master Chief Henderson on again in a couple of weeks.
Master Chief is coming on again, I think in July. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Not that he had anything to do with any of this that we talked about.
Well, right. But just the opportunity and what, you know, just having lunch with those guys and just hanging out and lifting with them and all that. What a great experience.
Listen, I'm going to tell a story on Hendo, and I hope he doesn't get pissed at me because I'll leave the country real fast. But so there's a kid who just got to the teams, man. And you know, the tier 1 team. And he was nervous. He was trying to just not screw up. Right. So we're bench pressing, and I forgot who taught the bench press, but you know, we're going through the setup and where your feet should be and all that stuff. And the guy had an injury, I think, so he needed to use a false grip, right? Well, I use a false grip because my flexors are so messed up, my elbows. The other way just feels like somebody's ripping my arms apart. So I didn't say anything. So Hendo comes over and says, "Hey, get rid of that false grip." And the kid's like, "Okay." And he goes, "You know why?" And the kid's like, "No, sir." And he says, "Because when I'm in combat, and I need to use that thumb, because when I grab a guy by the throat and rip his throat out, I need to have that thumb in there too. So you don't use a false grip."
Can't do that with a false grip.
And walks away like that. So me and the kid look at each other. I'm like, no more false grip, man.
And Jim, that was a real story. That's
I'm sure it was.
He meant
either
that.
way, it had the desired effect of
we could spend the rest of the show telling Hendo stories, but we won't. But
I'm glad Justin got to be around those guys, and I knew it's a life-changing thing if you know enough to take advantage of listen to everything, you know. It's like,
it was a true honor.
How much training do they have you guys doing? Are you do over and above what they prescribe, or let's say out of season? In season, I'm sure everybody's regimented, but out of season, are you left to your own devices, or how does that work?
Yeah, so in the off season, my first off season was a real shock, because it was the first time that I didn't really have anybody telling me what to do. You know, you always have the structure of a strength coach, a team, and I went back to Pittsburgh, and it was kind of just me there. And our coaching staff got fired, so there was nobody there to keep you accountable. Our strength staff got fired. So it's definitely, I think that's another reason why a lot of guys fall out is, you know, especially if you come from a big program like an Alabama or anywhere that's Big D1, you know, they take care of everything for you. Your meal plan, you know, what classes you're going to take, where you're going to live, your training, you know, your diet, just everything. And so that's one of the advantages of coming from Penn was we had some of that stuff, but, you know, I cooked a lot of my meals on campus. You know, I kind of learned to create my own meal plan. I was
we didn't have training table.
So what you're saying is that coddling kind of creates incomplete humans that are not really capable of
Yeah, and he wasn't
preparing their
counting.
own meals, or because they've always had someone there, or they have the dining hall or
Yeah.
whatever, right?
And there's Marty, and there's no.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
And there's no professor that says, "Oh, you got a game? Don't worry about the assignment." I mean,
Yep.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Yep.
you know,
Yeah.
So for me, yeah, it's all. And the other thing that's kind of amazing is you think you're going to get to the NFL and it's going to be like the best. Everyone's going to be the best. You know, the best trainers, the best trained coaches, the best this, and that's just not always the case. And so you have to.
Really?
Yeah,
Do
a lot of
tell.
times you
Do
have to think-
tell.
Yeah, well, yeah, without exposing everybody. But I remember, even my, I was never hurt in college ever, and I hurt my hamstring pretty soon after I got to Tampa. And I just remember, my hamstring started getting a little tight, and so I asked one of the trainers who did ART. I had a lot of success with active release therapy in college, and I just needed a little tissue work. I was like, hey man, my hamstring's getting a little tight. Would you mind, working on it a little bit? Oh no, that we actually want that tightness. He said, yeah, he said, your muscles do that to protect itself. You probably got a little fraying or something. And if we loosen it back up, it's just going to expose it. So I said, okay.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
A couple more days, man. I got a rock in my hamstring, and I'm like, listen, dude, I just need something. Give me just give me anything, to loosen this up. And he says, no, it gives me the same reason. And I said, okay, what happens when I go out there and I pop my hamstring? And he said, you can run. His literal words were, you can run all day and your hamstrings not going to pop. So
Is he still there?
Man.
Don't talk, JP. Don't ask that question.
Yeah, well, so
he got promoted.
Yeah, so I had never had a bad experience with any strength coach or trainer up to this point. Whatever Jim said, I did. Whatever our trainer said, I did, and it always worked. And so I'm running practice. My hamstring's killing me. Our coach comes up to me, hey man, if you need to stop. And I said, nah, man, I'm good. I'm in a little bit of pain, but he told me that it's not going to get any worse.
It's only pain.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm the very next route I ran and I jumped, landed, and it just, felt a snap right in my hamstring.
Where was it? Upper, lower?
It was more towards the upper. And it wasn't all the way up in my butt, but it was about 3/4 of the way up my hamstring.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
And so I get off the field and they're asking me, why don't you stop? And I tell them what the trainer said. And I remember our receiver coach came up to me afterwards and he said, hey man, listen, that guy's getting bitched out, but he's going to get bitched out for 5 minutes and then he's going to go about his day. You're going to miss how many weeks now? You're the one that's not playing. And that was my first lesson, that you really got to be
your
own advocate and know your body and know when to push, when to get tissue work. And so I was fortunately, when we got our new strength staff, and then Tom came, he brought his soft tissue guys, and I've just been able to kind of piece together a really good plan for myself. Just off all that, training really hard. I think one thing I was doing that was stupid before was I was never taking any days off, and I got some blood paneling done, and my cortisol levels were like through the roof.
Really?
And
how about your testosterone? Was it depressed?
It was still pretty good. It was, thankfully my testosterone was still pretty good, but that's what our strength coach was like, dude, I think you might be doing too much.
Yeah.
What about if we just train really hard 4 days? If you want to do a little conditioning or cardio or something the other day, and then we actually get 2 good rest days in. And so I started doing that, and we got tested again, man. And my test levels were way higher. My body composition got better.
That's good.
I was stronger. And so that was one smart thing I did. And then, man, just tissue work, like I said, I think that's the biggest reason why Tom Brady has lasted as long as he has. His tissue guy that works on him, I mean, he is unbelievable. I mean, I can't tell you the things that I've had going on. I've dislocated my shoulder. It's been all wound up and bound up, could barely move it.
No.
Tissue work,
and I don't even miss a practice.
That started with the sprinters, right? That the whole idea, that deep tissue massage of the sprinters were way ahead of the curve. Actually, the Iron Curtain
Right.
guys with the deep tissue masseuse was
Yes.
considered like the most important guy on the team.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Right. And as soon as a guy would finish running, he'd go to the table and they'd work it out, right, and get him ready for the next race. And they say, oh no, Lars has moved from East Germany to Romania, but now Lars is in LA.
If
Right?
you read the Bulgarian schedule that Abgeneviv, mispronounced it, used to have, so they would have that morning workout. Then they would do a massage. Then they do sauna or whatever. Then they'd have another workout. Then they do a massage. I mean, it was imperative, and we were all like,
and they would handle 100% weights every day.
Yeah, I mean,
and they'd stop in the training hall, the unheated elementary school that was 55 degrees,
holes in the windows.
The national team training, and the only time they'd stop is when somebody was trying to set a national or world record. He'd hold his hand up, and then everybody else would stop and watch, and then they'd go back to training. And they train 8 hours a day. He said that is their job.
Yeah, that's right. And the massage was such a huge part. It helped me. There was only one guy like in the Philly area when I was still competing, and I used to go to him, and man, it made such a difference. Or if I had a fight or something like that, I'd go to him and he would loosen me up. It was.
I want to get back to Justin, but I just got to say,
sorry.
I got worked on one time by Ed Cohn. When I was staying with Ed Cohn in Chicago. He had his guy work on me, Boris, the 300-pound Russian.
Yeah.
Okay. He worked on one area, 1/4 of my shoulder. I looked like a lobster. My God, it was incredible. It was incredibly painful. But I mean, he straightened stuff out. Right. And that was my one and only experience. I can't imagine if you had continual access to that. I mean, that could be like life-changing.
Yeah. So that's what Tom will do that at least 3 times a day. First thing in the morning.
Whoa, really?
3 times a day.
Yep. And so you got to build up to that level of your tissue being able to handle that. But first thing in the morning, he'll get worked on right before practice, right after practice, and then later in the evening. So, I mean, that brother's getting tissue work all the time. And that's it's crazy, man. Like
and in between, he's going to the White House.
Hey, and that's better than just stretching and all that. I mean, that stuff actually makes a huge difference.
Is that the entire body, Justin? And he's doing 3 times a day?
Yeah. So there's like a general, I mean, I think in the morning they'll do like a little lower body flush, and then they'll work his shoulder. And then for pre-practice, it's everything needs to get going the drill.
How long do you think a session would last? Just any idea?
So a typical one is usually like 30 minutes. And then I would say probably a longer one, like a post-practice would be an hour. So he, but like, it's like you guys said, it just allows you to train.
Have you ever gotten what he gets?
Oh yeah. So there's twice.
Tell us about that. What's that like?
Well, so I'll even just say this, I had patellar tendon surgery, before this past season, and it was, a lot of guys, patellar tendon, it's like 9 months. And so I was with Tom's doctor and we did a different type of surgery, but he said, hey, I've never seen anybody come back faster than 6 months from this. I know Alex, that's Tom's PT. He's going to want you back in 5, but 6 months is how long this takes. And so what I was able to do was I was with our strength coach in the morning and we were pushing it hard. We were loading my tendon a lot, squatting, dropping, just doing things to really build, build that tendon up and build some tightness back in that tendon, some rigidness. But then on the flip side, you do too much of that and you're going to get tendonitis again, other things are going to compensate. And so every morning I would get tissue work right away, get everything else long, loose, firing. We'd crush my patellar tendon and everything else around it. And I'd go right back and get tissue work, get all the soreness out, the pain. And so I was able to do that so much more frequently than somebody who wasn't getting tissue work all the time because I was never sore. And I played in a game 4 months from the date of surgery.
Wow.
Wow.
So
It is great, man.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, I was when I was powerlifting, since I had that stiff leg deadlift thing, Marty, from years ago.
Yeah.
If I, did 600 for a bunch of steps and my back would lock up on me, and I would be sleeping in the chair. And there was a massage therapist at Gold's, and I would hobble out of the truck, and she would work on me, and I would feel like crap until the next morning. The next morning, it was like nothing ever happened.
Yeah.
I recommend it.
So, Jim, I will say there is his brand now of guys that they've trained to do similar things as the TB12 brand, and so they have one in Philadelphia actually.
Oh, awesome.
But yeah, one of the things that I think is really smart what they do that's different than a traditional like deep tissue massage. His background is he kind of studied like traditional Chinese medicine,
Right.
and then he also had some, just traditional medicine background, like athletic training type thoughts.
Yeah.
And so he was like, man, we're always working on the tissue and trying to get the tissue long, but just thinking about things through the Eastern medicine lens, he was thinking, there's this mind-body connection, whether it's your actual mind or your spine, but there's some type of connection where our brain tells our muscles what to do.
Yeah, we have
it's
a subconscious. Yeah. If we don't seize control of that consciously, subconsciously, like rep speed, if you don't tell yourself, I'm going to go fast, or I'm going to go medium, or I'm going to go slow, the body will do it'll take the path of least resistance. And it has its own agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so that's what he said, these deep tissue massages, they'll get you, say if your hamstring's supposed to be 12 inches and you got something going on and it's tightened up and it's only at 11 inches. Well, I work on it for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, however long, and I get it back to 12 inches where it's supposed to be. Well, your brain, you just practiced on this hamstring for 2 hours. It's used to firing in that shorter window, and that knows that that's a safe window we can fire. So it's going to go right back to firing in that 11-inch window. So they'll actually work similar to an ART, how they kind of work you through ranges of motion. You'll be like flutter kicking your heels so that your hamstring's working while they're digging in and deep, going through deep tissue stuff. So they kind of work that, your mind getting used to being in longer, longer lengths and their longer states, which I think
it's like all these governors we have on our bodies, and
until you tendon reflex.
Yeah, the Golgi tendon. Hatfield talked about that years ago. He was always like, I got to bypass that. Because he knew that that's a secret to strength, and one of the secrets is being able to do things that your body is saying, no, and your mind is going, yes.
Let me explain it in 2 seconds. It's just the Golgi tendon reflex it's a body governor that if the muscle senses that it's self-destructing, it'll shut down. So what Hatfield and Perillo and all these guys said, well, we've got to devise ways in which to overcome that, to reset it higher.
Right.
Right. Because normal people have it set normally. To be elite, you have to set it higher. So anyway, good. So go ahead. I just wanted to,
all this just illustrates how you have to, they make a lot of money and all this stuff, but man, you got to spend the money to stay in that league. You got to make sure I remember when Justin got drafted, I told him 2 things, and you don't have to comment on the first thing, but I said, get rid of your girlfriend and get meals at your house. So you can just go into the freezer after practice and just cook it up. And it's a perfect, the macros are going to be just what you want. I didn't realize he was a good cook and all that, but that's my first thing. Cause I knew that James Harrison had an acupuncturist stay with him in the dorm, along with the massage guy and all this. He played 15 years or whatever. It's a key. And then you got Brady, who's 90 years old, and the guy's out there winning Super Bowls. And because they figured it out, man. Spend the money, do the right thing for your body. It's everything. So
Justin is eating like a bodybuilder. Trainer, I mean, you're picking, what did Bruce Lee say? You select from everything, and he's got bodybuilder nutritional tactics and Eastern European deep tissue massage. I mean, got it covered coming and going. but the biggest money attracts the best athletes.
Yeah. And the yeah, how many times in the weight room did I say, you're doing this last set for 4th and 1?
Yep.
How many times in your football career did games come down to 4th and 1? And in order to win that 4th and 1, you got to be willing to do what the other guy won't. And so you hear about these guys and I eat McDonald's 3 times a day. Okay, you're a freaking freak. You're a freak.
Yeah.
No,
And
99% of the other guys
and they
can't.
only get so far.
That's right.
And
Genetics,
Justin,
genetics alone will only get you so far.
Right. How good could they have been? How good? Yeah.
Justin, what about the resistance training side of this? I mean, how big of a contrast was it going from Ivy League to NFL? I mean, what you had been doing in college, I mean, how well, I imagine it prepped you pretty well to go into the NFL, but was it such a huge step up where the resistance training is involved? How different was it? Tell us about it.
No, so that's you know, I think that's one thing that in a lot of places it's just, so in college you can spend so much time with guys that you can teach them how to squat, how to clean, how to bench, but NFL strength coaches don't always get that luxury, and so sometimes they put out a program that everyone can do, but then the guys that are, you know, the elite strength trainers, the elite resistance trainers that are really good at this stuff and have worked at it, I kind of noticed myself at first regressing a little bit towards everybody else because they were just putting out this workout that sort of everybody could do. It was kind of just a blanket workout.
Yeah.
And,
one size fits all.
Yep. And so after my first year, when I kind of reassessed everything, and thankfully I was going to a different strength coach back in Pittsburgh, but then we ended up hiring our strength coach, and then he kind of unlocked a whole new side of what I think the NFL should be.
Yeah.
You know, just getting to know different lifts for different positions, but even just getting to know guys personally, seeing what I'm good at. And that's what we got back to a lot of stuff we did, Jim, whenever I was training after the combine, getting ready for, you know, camp and OTAs. He looked at me and he was like, dude, your force numbers are off the charts. Like, you can move a ton of weight and you're big. And he said, but your velocity numbers are good. But when he put up this chart of NFL players, I was like the top force guy, and there was some room to gain on the velocity side. So we got those, you know, Jim, we just did it just because you see weights all the time and we could just do it by your eye. We have the GPS speed trackers. Yeah. And so he'd say, hey, we're going to go heavy, but I want you to be in this velocity range. So if you're on the high side of that range and you can go up to 365, 385, then we're going to keep going up, but I want you to stay at this velocity range. So then it just, and Marty, you even said it too, the intentionality behind my lifts, and that everything was max effort, everything was fast as I can. And that unlocked a ton for me, because it wasn't just lifting anymore. It was training with a purpose to,
You know, if these, you know, what a smart guy. And he doesn't even need that. I mean, it's good that he has the GPS and all that stuff, but that is Hatfield compensatory acceleration from 1978 at Bowie State University.
Right.
That's compensatory acceleration. You know?
And again, I looked at Kirk's lifting 2 weeks ago, and, you know, the guy never grinds a rep.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like, but now at this point in his life at 56, it's so ingrained in his DNA. He's almost incapable. It's wild, but it makes us go, speaking of intentionality, it makes us go, we've got to be conscious of this. All we do is grind. You got to stop it, boys. Right? Yeah. That's all we live on, grind. Right? We love grind because we can grind. And we're tough guys. Tough guys can grind. It's like no one cares. We don't care that you're a tough guy. We don't care that you're a tough guy that can grind. Because the tough guys that can grind, I love my cousin Donnie, but he can do like 405 for 8. So what does he get for 455? Yeah. It's like, what's the point?
Where's the carryover?
If I did 405 for 8, I'm at 500, right? Yeah. I mean, come on, man.
That's good.
Justin,
you know what I did with Justin before he went to camp? We boxed a lot, man. I held mitts, and you should have seen the improvement in just the hand-eye coordination, just being able to recognize that target really fast,
and that punch speed,
and the hips and all that.
Yeah,
the conditioning,
the velocity, right?
Yep.
I mean, he'd be dying, man. But
I know.
that
It
gets
still
you ready,
gets me
man.
when I hear, it's one of those things where I try to smell the BS. And when somebody says like, I still have those boxing mitts hanging up in my locker.
Really?
All 4 years at the Bucks, and I'm taking them up to Kansas City with me, and I use them still. But I remember I'd see guys would say, "Oh man, I love boxing in the off season. I love that as training." And I try to get to okay, are you doing? How many punches a minute are you doing? Because me and Jim and he was crushing me, man. It was nonstop. 10 right straights, 10 left hooks, 1, 2, 3. I mean, we are flying through it. And then you see, it can be as hard or as easy as you want to make it. That's the beautiful thing about it.
Yeah.
As a wide receiver, that is perfect.
I know.
That is such a great thing to do.
I know. It really is.
And even with me needing to be kind of cross-trained in the sense that I am one of our premier special teams players, it just helped me get back to using my hips and my lower body power to translate to my upper body, because that's what hitting is. We get that in the clean, but being able to use your lower half and your glutes and everything down there to power through your upper body to hit a guy or block a guy is really helpful.
And create velocity instead of some sort of slow motion blow that anyone can dodge.
Yeah. And a lot of times when I was holding mitts for him, I'd be watching his feet, and if I'd be like, you got to pivot on the left hook, and you got to crush the bug on the right straight, and if he's not doing that, you're not getting the athleticism. And I saw a huge improvement with that, man. And it's just like anything in athletics, right? It all comes from the ground up. And so once you teach somebody, and Justin learned this, to throw those punches like a wave from the ground that ends at your fist, right? That's the key. It where it begins there and comes all the way up and comes out, man. That's power. That's force.
Look at it. Look at the YouTube of Tyson's 43 knockouts.
Yeah,
because he is the absolute best at just generating power from the ground up.
From the ground
and
up.
his little 5'11", 220 pounds coming up from the ground, man, with that uppercut. Watch out, man. You get hit by that, you're unconscious.
That's a good observation.
Yeah, because if you watch him, Marty, when he used to throw those left up, he'd go right hook to the body, right uppercut, right uppercut.
And he caught the thing, Jim. If you looked at that, is a beautiful thing. He'd hit the guy in the gut with a right uppercut, but he caught his own rebound, because naturally, if you hit something as hard as you can, there's a little bit of a rebound, right?
Yeah.
So he would absorb that rebound, redirect upward, because now the guy has bent over because he's hit him in his gut and he's bent him forward. Now he's got a chin exposed, that he goes upward and he's driving off his feet.
Yes.
And he launches himself.
And where are his hips when he's finished? They're extended. They're extended.
But before they were extended, they were cocked.
Yes. Butt behind and then extend just like a clean. Yeah.
Oh my God. And he turned his disadvantage, his shortness, into his advantage, because he became the infighter. You don't want him inside your guard, buddy.
No. Hey, Justin, can you touch a little more on your nutrition? People will be really interested in that.
Yeah. So I think a good first thing to do, as you guys kind of said, it's kind of like that bodybuilding type diet, or some people call it the bro diet. But at first I just got really basic. I got my macros.
Is that bro or pro?
Bro, because you end up eating the same couple foods over and over again. If you and so kind of what I focused on first was, here was my macros, and I focused on foods that I could easily measure. So
who set your macros for you? Who set your macros?
So I was going off of what we kind of built off in college, but then I kind of took it myself from there, and just adjusting where I wanted to go. And so I do my own research. and so, I just focused on foods that I could easily track,
Right.
protein, protein shakes, easily trackable. You make them yourself, you know exactly what goes into it. Chicken breast, it's pretty much all chicken, very little fat, so then my carbs were oatmeal, because it's all carbs, rice, all carbs, potatoes. And then my fats, picking a couple of healthy fats, fish oils, olive oil, extra virgin olive oil,
Great.
avocado oil.
Great.
And so just focusing on these
So
foods.
how far out from your show are you?
Yeah.
That's a perfect.
How many calories a day? How many grams of protein? So how do you calculate that?
Yeah. So for me, I'm still, I probably overdo it on the protein. I'm like 1.5 grams per pound body weight.
Love it.
What
Okay.
most people would say.
Love it.
And so
He is
I'm
a
I'm
bodybuilder.
Yeah, so I'm right around 300 or a little bit above on protein, grams of protein a day. Carbs, I've kind of bumped my carbs up lately, but I was carb light before. I was probably sitting around 250 before, but now
you need more.
Yeah, but then that's exactly what I said. I was eating less carbs, but I wasn't getting any leaner. I was just kind of getting stale looking, and so I bumped the carbs up. Now I'm probably right around 300 to 350 on a training day.
That's better.
How do you bump the carbs up? What do you increase, or what do you add? What kind of carb?
So typically for me,
Sweet potato.
Well, so that's what, like, a sweet potato would be something that I view as, it's not as carb dense, say, as like a rice. So I'll either do one of two things. Either I'll just start eating more rice instead of potatoes, where normally, like, a normal day would be in the morning, protein shake, oatmeal, little bit of nut butter, chia seeds, flax seeds, and a banana and cinnamon. And then lunch would be chicken, rice, avocado, whatever steamed vegetable.
How much chicken are you eating there, brother?
So I'm usually around 10 ounces of cooked chicken. After it's cooked, about 10 ounces of chicken.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
And then on your rice, does it matter white or brown?
Yeah. So I was always like a big believer in college. I'd say I was big into like the glycemic index, trying to eat my brown rices, my sweet potatoes. I kind of stay away from white rice. Yeah. But then now I look at it, I'm eating these carbs because I need them. Yeah. Because I'm burning them right away. My muscles need them. And then so I kind of switched to white rice, especially around my training, on training days, from training the next morning. And it's crazy because it's, white rice has gotten like a bad label. My body composition has dropped significantly. I've gotten a lot leaner since eating white rice because of how hard I train and because of how much I need those carbs.
Sure. Yeah, I don't think you want to be a pro football player and not have glycogen in your muscles. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's good, and you're burning that up right away. And if you ask Rich Sulky, JP and Marty, he would say the same thing. That's what he should do.
Well, hopefully Justin's not using any soy any way. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. Well, Justin, one of my buddies, Rich Sulky, comes on. He doesn't like whey protein, but
oh really? Okay.
We always joke about it. But anyway, that's great. And what else? It illustrates just how you got to be on top of this stuff if you want to stay in that league, man.
Yeah. Now, will you take a cheat day like Saturday nights where you go down a whole pizza, with your friends or whatever?
So I usually like build one in once a week. But then I get to Saturday night and I think about, I'm just too damn competitive, man. I get to Saturday night and I'm like, damn, I could have this, or I could get one meal ahead of the guy that I'm going to be competing against.
Oh man, I got chills. I got chills right now.
That's Jim still material.
And then I'm like, screw that, and I'm back on the grill and I'm salmon.
Jim, how many times have you said that same exact thing?
Oh, I know, man. Well, it's just like that's dedication, and Marty, this, when DeRozzo was doing Kirk, he had him waking up in the middle of the night to eat a chicken breast sandwich. Kirk will put a chicken breast sandwich next to his bed. Alarm would go off at 2 a.m. He'd eat that chicken sandwich, and guess what? All-time squat record.
Yeah. My mentor Hugh Cassidy would get up in the middle of the night and have a giant quart of milk.
Yeah, I just love that.
Quart of milk.
That the people that we've talked to all do that kind of stuff. If you talk to the
they're
main guys,
fanatics. We're fanatics.
yeah, you know, it's just there are certain characteristics that just set these guys apart, man.
I would imagine that you're pretty alone in your dietary strictness amongst your cohorts.
Yeah, it is. It's actually very rare, which it's cool because I think as a professional athlete, you're always looking for an edge. You know, what am I willing to do that nobody else is?
They're giving you that, aren't they? Giving you that edge.
Yep. And so that's that's what I'm always looking for. You know, in college, it started with when I started thinking about this. When I first set the goal to make it to the NFL, I thought, okay, you know, what is it? 3% of college players, much less than the Ivy League. So what is only 1% of college football players willing to do? And so it started with the diet. And then it's the next thing that came to my head was, well, what are days that nobody else trains? And so in college, man, my hardest training days of the year, holidays, you know, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, my birthday, spring break, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, I would go crazy training, running the hill outside my house, lifting. It didn't matter if it was 20 degrees out, because those are the days that I knew I was the only one training. And if I wanted to get an edge on everybody else, I was going to be alone on that day, and then I would be ahead. And so that's kind of where it started. And I just kind of took off from there. That, man, what am I willing to do this year that no one else is willing to do?
Yeah.
And then
and you know what? It doesn't just apply to sports. Now, you're going to retire from the NFL one day. You're going to maybe start a business or whatever, or have a family. All this discipline that you just honed and perfected during your professional sports career will be applied to that, and you'll excel at that.
Yeah. That's right.
Yep. No, discipline needs more discipline.
When the pro scouts used to come, everybody thinks pro scouts come and they talk to all the coaches, well, and all this stuff. Man, the first person they come to is me. And they want to know, is the kid the first in the weight room? Does he show good leadership skills? Does he work his ass off? Does he stay after, you know? And when they would ask me, I'd start laughing, you know, they'd be like, what? And I'm like, don't even, I know the questions you're going to ask me. He does it all. Don't worry about it. He's freaking dedicated.
Yeah.
If you got a daughter, she should marry him. I mean, just go with this.
Yeah.
Whatever your box is, put a check in.
Yeah, just check it, man. And you're lucky if you have him on your team. I was saying it. He was going to make it. I knew he was going to make it. You see, when you get a guy that's an athlete like he is, and he's smart and can sit back and say, hey, man, I need to do this with my nutrition. Hey, man, I need to, you know, I called you your first year and you were telling me how you set up chairs in your dining room as defenders, right?
Yeah.
And walk through your plays. I mean, that's the kind of dedication this stuff takes, man. And if you're listening to this and I don't care if you're a regular guy or a freaking, you know, elite athlete, if you're listening to this and not inspired and sort of amazed by the dedication that it takes and the way you can put this stuff in your life, you know, it's
then you're a hobbyist.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
But these tips are anybody can use them, man. You know? So have you met the Kansas City strength coach yet?
Yeah, I have. His last name's Ruben. Everyone just calls him Rubes. Okay. But really cool, man. He's you know, just very traditional, I would say like Olympic type strength, you know, deep squats,
good.
Deadlifts, cleans, which is rare in the NFL to have a strength coach.
I love it. All right.
It's coming back a little bit, isn't it, Justin? There's a few more guys that are lifting a little heavier. I know my buddy at the Giants, he's a squat, deadlift, clean guy.
Yeah, well, I see it. It's kind of like, I think what's happening is you're getting on one side of the line or the other. It's just blurring because there's guys who are sticking to the fundamentals, and then there's certain guys you talk to and they're like, oh man, I don't do, you know, just a kid I was having a conversation with. He was like, yeah, man, I don't do, you know, any lifting, and he plays, I'll say he plays like a mid skill level position where needs to be big and he plays in the box. And I'm like, why is that? You know, just asking. And he said, well, you know, I just think it makes more sense to put ourselves in positions that we're going to be on on the field.
Lord.
I said, okay. And I said,
Plus I've got this far and I haven't had to lift.
Yeah.
yeah. And so I think he had to lift in college and stuff, but he's young in the NFL. And I was like, okay, well, here, I'm going to get into the position that you're in every play. Okay.
Good luck with that.
Hey, what lift does this look like? I guess the squat. Oh, what about when I go to take on a block and I extend it? What does this look like? And so just what I got that from Jim, from Coach Steele. But man, like, you're in those positions all the time.
Right.
So, it's just, people don't see.
Here's what you should say to somebody like that. Oh, so weaker's better?
Yeah.
And that's it. All you got to say is weaker better. No.
Yeah.
Okay. So why aren't you getting strong?
Yeah.
Is weaker better? And so where are you now? Are you in Kansas City? Have you made the move and all that? I know you didn't have much time, did you?
Yeah. So this was my first week in Kansas City. The previous 2 weeks I was in Fort Worth, Texas, working out with Mahomes and a couple of the other receivers. This week we started in Kansas City with the coaches on the field, and then I'm sitting here in Tampa, Florida, just because we had the long weekend, and so I chose to come back and get some tissue work later today, and just wanted to be here for the weekend.
Yeah. So that's a big move. That's a big move, huh?
What's in Fort Worth? I mean, they got some great training facility over there or something. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, just the kind of the receivers go wherever the quarterback is. So
okay.
The last 2 years, wherever Tom was, that's where we went. When Jameis was here, we went up to Tallahassee to work out because that's where he was.
Oh,
and
yeah, because Mahomes is from here, right? He went to Texas Tech,
from
I think.
Texas. He went to Texas Tech.
Okay.
So that's where he stays in the off season. So we went there, and
I'm sure it's a safe neighborhood.
Yeah, I'm sure it's nice.
Yeah,
Didn't I see a picture of you working with Randy Moss?
Oh yeah. So that's it's just funny how it's all small. But the place I was training at this off season, I normally I'm always in the facility, but I was still here in Tampa. But I signed with the Chiefs, so I obviously couldn't train with my strength coach with the Bucks anymore. And so I found a new gym that he recommended and some other players recommended that I trust. And Randy Moss's son Thaddeus was working out there, and so one of the days he said, "Hey, he's gonna be on the field if you want to work out." And so, man, it was just me, Randy, and I think one or two other guys, because that's what it's just funny. Like, he pushes people really hard. I've worked out with him one other time, and so like the first time we worked out 2 years ago, there was like 20 guys, and then here he comes back a second week, and we got like 2 guys, right? Because people don't want to do what's hard. And man, just great, just so much knowledge. Obviously he's in the conversation for the greatest to play the position of all time. Jerry Rice is statistically in every way, but Randy Moss is right there. And I think one of the things that stuck out with me, man, is just the guy was prepared. He would go through like an entire camp practice the week or two before he'd actually show up to camp, so that when everyone else was trying to acclimate to camp, he had already been through it.
Wow.
Because of what he did himself. And just some really smart things that he does, just getting you ready for just even change direction. We'll flip the schedule all the time so that you don't always get into a rhythm, because that's how it is in a game or in practice. You could go from the 2 to now you're in with the 1s to we just punted, but then interception, and now we're back on the field.
Right.
And so we do a lot of really good training with him.
And it's like you're thinking, what have I done enough? Because there's so much to do. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, I worked out with Randy Moss. Okay, I got to lift. Okay, my nutrition, my massage, I better know where to line up.
Or how about rerunning in your head all the little tips and techniques and tactics that you picked up off Randy Moss, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You got to run that movie over and over. Like, oh yeah, the way he pushed off his right foot when he did, this move, right? So you got to remember that stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. I got to write it down, or I'll forget.
You got to log it.
Yeah. But the fact that you're doing that it separates guys. Nobody else is, or very few are doing, writing it down. And you know, or recording it or whatever, just to that little extra
It's
edge.
it's like getting a dance lesson from Barishnikov.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's right.
You know, as what you said, Jim, and I actually just said a similar message when I was at Penn speaking to the guys. You know, but you gotta pay the price, you know, and the beautiful thing about football is you never know what the price is going to be. You know, you said you're doing these reps, you know, that last set is for 4th and 1. You know, it's not like we're going to the store and, you know, hey, to win a championship or to make it to the NFL costs exactly 10,000 squats,
Right.
exactly 2,500 bench reps.
Right.
You don't know how much if you don't know until afterwards if you did enough. And so that's what in the off season, man, you know, there's part of me that's almost, there's like, you know, a little bit of a fear. You're constantly in my, like, you know, it's that fear that, am I doing enough? Am I going to meet the level that I need to meet constantly? So that's what fuels me, that I just keep doing more and more. And then it's awesome. And it's the best feeling
without breaking yourself.
Without breaking yourself. That's a whole nother side of it is
without breaking yourself.
Yeah. But it's such a great feeling when you show up to the first time that, you know, with all the other guys working out, and in a week they're like, shoot, man, what have you been doing this off season?
Yeah.
And that's just the greatest feeling, man. And then getting to see the, you know, the rewards for your toil. But that's a beautiful thing, man. You, with anything that's great, you never know what the price is going to be, and you got to be willing to pay anything. Otherwise somebody else will.
Yeah.
And also the fact that your improved body results in improved performance. It's not like you're a bodybuilder divorced from performance. It's yes, I look better, guys. And you know what? Watch this.
Yeah. Great point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you do it better because you're lighter, leaner, stronger.
Mm-hmm.
And how much, it's such an analogy, you know, they're like parallel between what Justin's talking about and the team guys. Let's prepare for anything that can go wrong. Let's prepare so much that where there's no stone left unturned.
And what did Tyson say? All the plans go out the window when you get punched
in the face. Yep.
Right.
So you better be
ready. And Jim, these guys are so into it and so passionate. You got to sometimes maybe pull them back a little bit. I'm sure Justin has to pull himself back and go, maybe I don't need that. You know, maybe I can take a day of rest. You know, I got to heal up.
And that day of rest is training.
Yeah.
Because you're training your body you're recovering. That's such a huge part of the whole thing, of the whole equation. And it doesn't mean that he's not studying film. It doesn't mean that he's not talking on the phone to Tom, you know, it doesn't, you know, or something like that.
Right.
You're still learning and getting better. It's just not breaking you down.
Jim, is that like that great photo? They got Schwarzenegger sitting next to Columbo, and they're at somebody's house sitting on a couch, and they've got on the, you know, the weird 1970 clothes, like the polyester shirts with the amoebas on them and the big collars.
Yes.
And they're just sitting there and they're like staring off into space. Oh, they got the plastic shoes with the Cuban heels, right? Right. And they're just sitting there and you're just staring. And the caption underneath it goes, what do you do in your day off training? Think about training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right.
And that's what they were doing. The two Dumbos are just staring off into space, and you can tell, oh, tomorrow is leg day. I must eat extra calories today.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to ask Justin one more question. You in the NFL, I mean, you guys have access to the best equipment, the best training equipment in the world, all kinds of technology and stuff. What have you gotten to use now that you've never used before, wasn't available in college and certainly not high school, but what do you really like that's out there? What's really cool out there right now that they're having you do?
You know, I would say, so I'll give you the boring answer is that there's not anything that's that cool or that great that really makes much of a difference. You know, it's the strength training. Like I said, I like the velocity type training. You know, it's nice. Just like Jim said, you can do it on your own just by being intentional about how much speed I'm going to put into a rep. And then the tissue work, which, you know, I'm fortunate enough that I can afford somebody to work on me all the time. But even when I was in Kansas City this week and I wasn't around, my tissue specialist, I was on a foam roller or on a lacrosse ball, like for almost the whole night. Like I'd get done with practice at 3, I'd be watching TV, just rolling and working everything out, working on my feet, kneading my feet with my fingers and things like that. But the one cool thing I will say, we had this in college. It was great when I was recovering from my knee surgery was, we have a force plate. We had one in college. The one that we have in the pros, it's a split force plate so that each of your feet are on a different plate.
Yeah.
And it was
That's
great when I was
interesting.
recovering. Yeah. When I was recovering from my knee, I'd get on that when I was squatting or when I was split squatting, these different exercises, and I could see where and when the energy was leaking out of my knee, because I could see that, okay, the tension's in his knee, and then all of a sudden we lose it on the right leg at this moment. And so we'd look at that in my squat, we'd have it live, and it would be, the one thing I struggled with was the unlocking mechanism on my back leg in like a split squat motion, which I'm in that split squat stance all the time running routes, but I'd have all the tension on my back leg how I should, and then when I'd go to unlock my knee to then drive it down, I would lose all the tension on my knee and my quad. And so then it was working. I was able to work that, and it sucked, man. That was probably the worst thing I've done is just putting that tension exactly where your knee doesn't want it.
Yeah.
But it was great being able to see, and like I said, I'm sure he kind of saw it with his eye himself that when I started that motion, I kind of pushed my butt back and my
broke at the hips. You broke at the
hips. Broke the hips, exactly that. So it took a lifting eye to see, hey, you're doing this, stop doing that. That's how we keep the tension in your knee. But things like that, I always just think are cool that when you can track. I like wearing the GPS trackers on the field so you can see how many miles per hour you hit this day, how many yards you track. Things like that are just cool for me.
How about the cryo chamber or flotation tanks or any of that stuff?
So I've done cryo a lot. I don't know. I'm not I like the float tanks a lot more than I like the cryo.
There you go.
I think I don't know. For me, the float tanks just, I don't know, it just feels like I got 5 hours of sleep when I get out of one of those. And even I'll do it on myself just when a ton of Epsom salts and put it in the bathtub.
Yep.
Laying there for 20 to 30 minutes, get out, foam roll everything, and then just get a light stretch and then put your feet up for 20 minutes and try to get,
be sure to play some Gordon Lightfoot while you're doing that.
Lightfoot.
And light some candles.
So
hey, we were putting your feet up when you were in college too, man.
So Justin, what you're saying is when it comes down to getting strong in the NFL, it still boils down to the basic lifts and the iron, doesn't it?
Yeah, he didn't mention the machine, did he, JP?
There was no machine.
No. Yeah, no, it's there's, like I said, I've seen every machine that money can possibly buy because they're always trying to find something new. But at the end of the day, it's the tried and true stuff. Yeah,
buy the best barbell made. That's what they should do. Always buy the best.
Right.
With
very aggressive knurling, right, Mark?
Yeah, that's what I like.
Yeah.
Knurling. So as far as if I said to you, hey, what exercise that you do in the weight room helps you most on the field, one or two, what would you say?
I would say the first one for me is the squat.
Thank you, Jesus.
Yeah, it's just so important, especially you just see, like I said, when we're talking about leave performance alone, even just staying on the field, just so important for your knee health and
now
everything
are
else.
you doing those sky high squats with a lifting suit, knee wraps, and a belt?
Just like you taught me, Marty, of course.
He's squatting 800.
Yeah.
Right. Off a 350.
I don't remember you ever squatting high. I don't remember ever saying, "Hey, you gotta get down there."
I would always come over. Man, is my depth good? Bro, great.
Oh yeah, because
What-
people
what-
ain't as
what-
critical. You're probably like, I know it was high on some of them, and they're like,
Yeah.
oh no, it was deep. Yeah.
What,
And
what
we'd
else
all be
would you-
standing there
what-
going, yeah, no, man.
What else would
Yeah.
you rank? Bench press?
Yeah. I would say, I wouldn't say the bench press is not more important than like the clean or
Yeah.
at least some type of fast
Jump.
pulling from the ground, something where
Explosive velocity.
yeah, where your hips are coming through at a rapid rate.
Yeah,
'cause
power clean. Power
Yeah.
clean.
Yeah.
Beautiful. What
Yeah.
else?
And then man, I'd say one other one for me. This isn't a lift, but I think this is huge for me. It's more of a run. So one thing that I do, it's hard to replicate how many yards I get at a practice. I mean, I've had practices where I've covered 8,000 yards in pads, and that's not typical, but that's, somebody goes down with an injury. We keep, the practice doesn't change. If we're supposed to run 100 plays and 2 receivers get hurt, we're still going to run 100 plays, but now we only have 4 receivers to run through all the routes. So one thing that I do a lot of is I'll do like kind of a 70%, we call them tempo runs, and I'll just do 100-yard striders, if you want to call them that, but I'll stay at a sub-maximal speed. So I'm not messing with my maximal speed mechanics.
Right.
And, but I'll get that yardage on my hamstrings, on my feet, on my quads.
And
so
the conditioning.
So that whenever I get out onto the field and we do that in camp, I'm a little bit more used to having that much yardage on me, and it's not such a shock. And it's allowed me to go a lot farther. I was kind of the only receiver doing that. I got that from Roger Kingdom, who's a 2-time gold medalist, won 84 and 88 110-meter hurdles. He's a speed guy in Tampa. And so, man, we did that all off season. He was teaching me how to not be so tight when I'm running. Like I used to run like I was carrying a pair of dumbbells, like my traps were all high and I was just grunting. And man, just to be smooth and running and stretch.
Yeah.
Man, like it's just unlocked. That's what I was the only receiver that first year with Bruce Arians that didn't have a hamstring injury, where every other receiver that was on our active roster missed at least 2 games with a hamstring injury.
Wow.
And I took more reps than anybody playing special teams, being the guy that is on the first team, but also when somebody gets tired, I got to take a rep or 2 on the scout team, and so that's helped me a lot.
Yeah.
Strong, loose, and pliable.
Yep.
Yeah. And then add the nutrition component and the mindset in there. And, it's funny because Justin's senior year, I got the football coach to buy everybody the book Discipline Equals Freedom. And that's by a former SEAL. And I think one guy took it to heart, and that was Justin, man. Because he wrote something, but I'm always he helps me with my son because he needs help, and we love him. But and Justin wrote this on a text, like about living a reactionary lifestyle. You don't want to live a reactionary lifestyle. You want to be in charge, And I was like, dude, that's brilliant. I can tell you went to Penn. He's like, Coach, that's the book you gave me, man.
Yeah.
That's so even that is covered. You know what I mean? Even that is something that he realized, man, I could learn something from this book. Yeah.
I got some books for you, brother.
Yeah, we all do. I know, Marty, you got some. Yeah, for sure.
Hey, man, I'm always reading. So please,
I know.
either say them on here or text me, because I'm always reading.
That's right. You would text me and say, hey, man, I need a book. That's right. Yeah.
Yep. River of Doubt was a great one that you gave me.
Listen. Be careful on Steele's recommendation.
No, River of Doubt. Did you ever read that one, Marty? JP?
I don't know. Books you send me are so depressing. It's like,
well, this is
everybody's dying or getting stabbed or they're.
It's in case you start doing cardio on a bike or a treadmill. You're well equipped.
River of Doubt is Teddy Roosevelt going down the Amazon.
Oh, I'm sure that's a joyful tale.
Yeah. It'll make you sad about today's politicians and that they don't look anything like that anymore.
No.
Oh, well, I wouldn't have known that without the book.
Yeah. Hey, he used to skinny dip in Rock Creek Park, man. You know. In the middle of the night. Anyway, man, this is fantastic.
No,
Yeah, we
thank you.
appreciate it, Justin. I mean,
Yeah,
this is had a great time hanging with you in Virginia Beach, and we appreciate you coming on today. And you know, we still got a lot more information. Maybe you can come on again in a few months and tell us what you're up to, see what's going on with with your new team, Chiefs over there. And did you guys have any other questions or anything for him?
No, man, no.
No, it's great, man. And I, you know, just the dedication. If you take anything out of this, it's just the dedication it takes to succeed, and use this in anything. Use this in anything, you know, that you do in life.
He's got so many great examples. Look, it was an impossibility that he wasn't going to do well, right?
Yeah, yes.
Well,
And he had such great coaches and people behind him like Jim. So, you know, a lot of support there.
Yeah, well, I knew if I brought him to tier 1 and Marty liked him, he was all right.
Yeah.
I think you're a great example of it. And I say this is respectful. This is not a cut. You're a physiological overachiever. You know, you have taken what genetics that you have and you just amplified on that.
Right.
And it's very Brady-ish. I mean, you're taking all that's currently available, all knowledge, cutting edge knowledge currently available, and synthesizing it and putting it into your particular sport, which is different than rugby, which is different than professional basketball. It's specific. You're a wide receiver, and you know what I mean? And everything is aimed at that. And this is a state of the art 2022.
Yeah. And state of the art with the primitive foundation, Marty, with the purposeful primitive.
Yep.
Thank you.
I will say it just in closing, you know, one, just thank you guys. I mean, I love spending time with you guys, even if it's on this podcast or in person. Just always a great time. But JP, what you said about it being impossible for me not to make it, and that's the one thing I think. I don't know. Maybe I've turned from in my head. You know, I think the important thing is it's important to have goals so that there's a direction I know I want to go. But you know, and this is nothing revolutionary, but the most important thing is building those habits that are going to get you there. You know, I look at who do I want to be in 5 years? Okay, what does that guy do on a daily basis? Because, you know, as we talked about with those seasons, you know, that senior year we did everything right, and the results still came up short. And I look at last season, you know, I thought my training and my diet and my tissue work, like I was more on top of everything than I ever been, and I tore my patellar tendon, and so I go back and I look at, you know, the goal. I didn't reach the goal that I wanted to reach for that year because I was hurt at the start of the season, and so I went back and looked at my habits and my processes, and I said, you know what, man, these are still really good. And I looked, maybe I tweaked one or two more things, but I didn't throw out my processes or my habits just because I didn't hit my goal right then.
Right.
And so I think that's just huge. Is it's important to set these goals, but man, marry yourself to the habits. And you know, if you don't hit your exact goal, you're gonna end up somewhere pretty close, or you're gonna hit it later down the line, because it's the habits that are gonna carry you there, not just the one-time goal that you reach. And then what? You know, I said I reached the NFL, and then there was this little bit of a lag, like, okay, what do I do from here?
Right.
Where if you focus on your habits and who I am on a daily basis, and this is where I want to go, even when you reach that 500 pound, 600, 700 pound squat, or even when you reach that goal or that promotion, you're going to keep going because you know that it's the habits that you bought into more than the goal that you fell in love with, you know?
Right.
Your goal,
You're always
your
regrouping.
your goals shift.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So spike the ball, touchdown.
Yeah. But you got to the NFL like I approached my
no more
business. You know, failure was not an option. It took years of struggle, but there was no option for me. I was going to do it one way or another. But you know, and that's how you have to look at it. And you always have to regroup, like you said. You get to that 600-pound squat. Okay, regroup. Now where do I go? Where do I need to be? You know, so it's always just a moving target.
Roger
What's that?
I said higher, better, faster, stronger.
Yeah. All right. Justin, well, listen, for the country of Luxembourg, where we're apparently number one, and the hundreds of other people, you know, in the U.S. and other countries.
Highest income, highest
Yeah.
IQ.
That's right. Luxembourg. We love it.
There you go.
If they want to check Justin out on his Instagram, the address is at JWAT, JWAT. Justin, did you have any charities or causes or anything you wanted to mention? Anything?
One that just is close to me, my oldest brother, Tommy, was born with cerebral palsy.
Mhm.
And when we were growing up, we were a Make-A-Wish family. We got a Make-A-Wish actually gave us an above ground swimming pool. And it was so cool because it was
Awesome.
one of the few things that we could all do. As
Pennsylvania's above ground swimming pool. Yes,
That's
sir.
right.
Yep.
That's
You know it. And so Make-A-Wish has always been close to my heart. And then, so that's a great charity. And then there's a charity here that I work with in Tampa. It's called Give Kids the World Village. And it's really cool. It's for kids with terminal illnesses that either want to go to Disney or maybe they want to go to Disney, but they can't because of their health complications. This place is incredible, man. It looks like it's made out of a Candyland board to life. Every building is something that's out of a Disney movie. Kids get to live on campus. They have like a miniature Disney World. Disney characters come in, and it's all free of charge to the family. And actually, Jim, Vito and Vinny DiCaprio actually went there, which I didn't know that was their wish. But I work pretty closely with that charity, and so those are two great ones. Make-A-Wish, and then one of their biggest partners is Give Kids the World Village here in Florida.
That's awesome, man. Thank you for that, and thank you for being involved. All right, and then there's we don't want to forget about Marty Gallagher. He's got a weekly column going on, Raw with Marty Gallagher at ironcompany.com. Marty, this one is going up this week. By the time this podcast comes out, your article, Gallagher's GOAT, top 10 greatest power lifts of all time, is going to be published. And I went through that thing. I love that. You want to?
You should. There's a lot.
Yeah. Well, I do.
Love, baby. There's a lot to love.
Yeah.
It's just the top 10 lifts of the retrospective. It's my own opinion.
Yeah, that's cool.
Have you seen it, Jim?
No, I'm going to read it for sure, though.
So anyway, that's a week from today. I'm going to be at Tyson's Playground in Tyson's Corner, Virginia, very upscale neighborhood, and 3-day strength Lollapalooza Friday night, some sort of meet and greet.
Right.
I've been told not to drink ahead of time, so.
They
said, listen, Gallagher, we don't want you surly for the first half and asleep for the second half of this thing. So no drinking ahead of time, Jim. All right. Yeah. So, and then Saturday, they're having an all-day strongman powerlifting competition. And Sunday, I'm putting on a seminar with Ed Cohn.
Damn.
Wow, nice.
Yeah. No, that's going to be awesome, man. I wish I could.
Where do they go to find out about that?
TysonsPlayground.com.
There you go.
Yep. And if
I believe they have excellent steakhouses and good Chinese within a couple of miles.
That's right.
So it's ideal.
All right. And then your Instagram is at the Marty Gallagher, and also the joint operational website that you have with your wife is functional-strength.org. And then, of course, since 1997, Iron Company has been your one-stop shop for gym equipment and flooring solutions for high school, college, and professional sports teams. So if you need any good equipment, strength, cardio, rubber flooring, just go to ironcompany.com. And then last but certainly not least is new Jim Steele articles that can be found in our article section, also at Iron Company. And the latest one is Deadlifts for Life, which
that's all. What's coming up? What's up next?
Sort of the mental side of transformation.
Now we're talking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now we're talking. Now it doesn't involve weaponry or anything, right?
You shall have to see. You shall see.
You'll have to read the article to find out.
No, that's it. Yeah.
All right. And then your
And I got
website
it.
is
Boss Barbell.
Boss Barbell. It's BAS Barbell.
I got one up now about what a pain in the ass my kids are.
Right.
Well, that might be an ongoing series of columns.
Oh, I've had a couple of them.
Right.
As they get older, everything changes. So,
Far into the distant future.
yes.
All right.
That was
All right,
great,
guys.
man. That was
Let's
great.
wrap it up. Thank you again, Justin.
No,
Of
thank
course,
you
buddy.
guys.
Appreciate it,
you're
brother.
all-
We'll talk.
We love you.
All right, love you guys.
See ya.
All right. You
Stay
too.
healthy. Stay healthy. Stay healthy.
Yeah.
Yep. Bye.